Episode 51. Haha, what a great person has come, Part 1. Alone? Yes. So you came alone? Yes, that's what I said. Yes. Wang Zhongyi stood there, blinking rapidly as if trying to wake himself up from a bizarre dream. He repeated the same questions like a broken record and shot a confused glance at his subordinate, who looked equally lost. Wait, didn't he just say that? Am I losing my mind? Was this tea stronger than usual? The poor guy was clearly trying to wrap his head around this strange situation. Meanwhile, standing in front of him was the one and only, the great Cheng Myung. The very definition of small package, big attitude. He looked up at Huang Zhongyi like an annoyed teenager being asked to explain why there's a scratch on the family car. And just when things couldn't get more awkward, loud laughter booms in the distance. Ah, yes, cue the entrance of Ki Mokseng, an elderly man who clearly missed the memo about indoor voices. Ha! What a joke! Young master, did I not tell you? There's no need to deal with Mount Hua. Mokseng's grin was so wide it threatened to split his face in half. What were they thinking, sending a child here for help? They didn't even have the guts to show up in person. Yep, you heard him right. Mount Hua's idea of a rescue mission was sending a kid. No cavalry, no Grand Master, just Cheng Myung, the human equivalent of an espresso shot, but without the politeness. Wang Zhongyi's face hardened, clearly trying not to lose his temper. Was Hyunjong really the kind of man to play such tricks? He wondered. Then again, it had been a tough year for Mount Hua, so maybe this was all they could afford. Huang turns back to the kid. Did you really come alone? Yes. Mount Hua sent you? Cheng Myung sighed, looking as if he had just been forced to explain to a child why the sky is blue. Yes, me, alone. Do you want it in writing? Let's be honest, Cheng Myung wasn't exactly thrilled about this situation either. A former badass trapped in a body that barely hit puberty, and here he was, being talked down to like a lost toddler at a theme park. Young master? Wang Zhongyi stammered. My name is Cheng Myung, third-class disciple of Mount Hua. I received your letter and came as fast as I could. I've got a clue about the symptoms you described, so I came to help. You could practically see the skepticism dripping off Wang Zhongyi's face like bad aftershave. All alone, he muttered again, as if he couldn't believe the words even after saying them 5 times. A kid? Really? Meanwhile, Mokseng, ever the ray of sunshine, decided to cut in with another gem of wisdom. Ha! Ha! This boy's fooling you already. How could he know what the best doctors in the world couldn't figure out? Don't waste your time. Moksung's smugness was enough to make anyone want to punch a wall, or maybe his face, preferably both. Cheng Myung had finally had enough. Turning toward the old man, he deadpanned. By the way, who the hell are you to keep calling me a brat? You could hear a pin drop. Moksung blinked, probably wondering if his ears were malfunctioning. Did this child just ask me who I am? Are you asking me? Moksung replied, trying to regain his composure. Yeah, unless there's someone else here slinging around brat like it's their job. Moksung's face flushed redder than a tomato in the sun. I am an elder of the Southern Edge sect. You should be showing respect, brat. Oh, the Southern Edge sect? Cheng Myung mused, shrugging nonchalantly. Well, I thought you might be a doctor the way you were running your mouth. You got a cure for Elder Huang then? Moksung's chest puffed out with importance. Elder Huang's illness comes from going against the Tao. We'll perform a Taoist ritual to relieve the anger of the heavens. It's the only way. Cheng Myung couldn't help himself. He grinned like a cat who just cornered a very dumb mouse. Sure, that might work, in which case you should call Wudang or Kunlun. You know, the actual experts in rituals. Moksung's jaw dropped. No need to go that far. The Southern Edge sect can... Cheng Myung waved his hand dismissively. If you're going to do a ritual, you might as well go for the premium package. Wudang will get it done, and they'll even send a few monks to chant for ambiance. Wang Zhongyi was starting to look like he might faint from stress. Who was this kid? And why did he talk like a traveling salesman trying to upsell him? As for Moksung, well, the guy was about to burst a blood vessel. His face had turned an impressive shade of purple as he fumed. This brat's mocking me. Hasn't Mount Hua taught you any respect for your elders? Cheng Myung casually picked at his ear as if Moksung was little more than background noise. Yeah, my bad. The old man trembled with fury, but what could he do? If he exploded, he'd be the laughingstock of the Southern Edge sect, and let's be honest, they didn't need any more reasons for people to laugh at them. Moksung, now redder than a chili pepper. Spat! Young master, get this brat out of here! But Wang Zhongyi wasn't budging. Elder Moksung, this is the Yunhe Merchant Guild, not the Southern Edge sect. I will decide who stays and who goes. Moksung opened his mouth to argue, but one icy glare from Wang Zhongyi shut him up real quick. Turning back to Chengmyung, Wang Zhongyi sighed. All right, young Taoist, I'm willing to listen. Tell me, how do you know about my father's condition? Chengmyung cracked his knuckles. All right, let's get serious. Your dad's body turns red like a lobster, but he's shivering like he's stuck in a freezer, right? Wang Zhongyi's eyes widened. How did you know? Oh, I'm just that good, Chengmyung said with a smirk. Now let's get inside. I came all this way and honestly, I could use a drink. And with that, Chengmyung strolled inside, chest puffed up like a conquering hero. Moksung? Well, the poor guy was left outside, fuming, probably wondering if there was a Taoist ritual to calm his ever-mounting rage. Wang Zhongyi's mind was racing. This kid, this Chengmyung, just walked into his life and started diagnosing his father like it was a walk in the park. But hell, the kid did know some freaky details about his dad's illness, so maybe, just maybe, he wasn't full of it. As they headed inside, Wang Zhongyi turned to his subordinates, practically barking, "What are you waiting for? Get water, cold water now!" His men scrambled like their pants were on fire, rushing to get the honored guest a drink. Huang, suddenly all polite, gestured for Chengmyung to follow him in. The mood had definitely shifted. Gone was the skepticism, replaced by desperate hope. Meanwhile, standing outside, Ki Moksung was seething like an unattended kettle about to blow. Young master, don't fall for it. These are symptoms of someone infected with harmful qi. Knowing that doesn't mean anything. Oh, Moksung, you poor, stubborn soul. He really didn't know when to quit, but Huang Zhongyi was having none of it. He narrowed his eyes and calmly but firmly asked, "Tell me, elder, does harmful qi cause black spots on the crown of the head and the back of the neck?" The elder stammered, realizing he was being cornered. Well, no, but this is a matter for the Yunhe Merchant Guild, Huang interrupted, not bothering to hide his irritation. If you interfere again, I'll be taking this up with the Southern Edge sect. Translation, shut up, or I'll report you to your boss. Moksung looked like someone had just kicked his dog. His face was priceless, a mix of fury and humiliation. But what could he do? He wasn't in his sect, and he knew stepping out of line would only end with more embarrassment. So he clenched his fists and retreated, hissing through his teeth like an overcooked kettle about to burst. You brat! If you don't cure him, I'll personally make sure you pay for it. Moksung shouted as a parting gift. Chengmyung, ever the picture of maturity, just puffed out his cheeks, trying not to laugh. The kid was practically glowing with satisfaction, clearly enjoying how thoroughly he had roasted the elder. You brat! Moksung bellowed, his face turning a lovely shade of beetroot. The only thing missing was steam shooting out of his ears. Wang Zhongyi sighed again, clearly feeling the second-hand embarrassment for the old man. Apologies, young Taoist. For some reason, whenever Mount Hua is involved, the Southern Edge sect loses all sense of reason. Chengmyung waved it off like he was brushing a piece of lint from his robe. It's fine. It's fine. Who's to blame? It was all my fault to begin with. Wang Zhongyi blinked in confusion. Huh? Oh, nothing, Chengmyung said with a sly grin. Just regretting some past decisions, I guess. Maybe I shouldn't have beaten them up so much 100 years ago. Chengmyung mused to himself, briefly sympathizing with the very people he had humiliated all those years ago. And with that, the stage was set. Would the kid who talks a big game really pull off a miracle, or was Moksung going to get his revenge? Either way, things were about to get very interesting. Oh, we're back at it again with Chengmyung, the legendary Taoist who really knows how to keep his priorities straight. I mean, why save a life when you can eat first? Am I right? No, what is it? You see, there's a proper order to these things. Isn't this the most urgent matter? I've come from so far away and I'm hungry. Ah, yes, the real priority, food. This man's got a dying elder on the line, and his biggest worry is getting a snack. Truly a hero for the ages. When the treatment is done, I will prepare a feast. I have no power to move. You can sit. Poor Wang Zhongyi, desperate for his father to live, and Chung Myung's acting like it's just another Tuesday. He's looking at him like, dude, my dad is literally on death's doorstep, and you're worried about carbs? Chung Myung takes a glance at the bed, and things aren't looking too hot. The elder is wrapped in blankets, but not the cozy kind, more like the I might not make it kind. The poor guy looks like he's already got one foot in the afterlife. Checking the old man's pulse, Chung Myung gets right to it. Insert chi, investigate the blackened veins. Yep, it's bad. Really bad. How is it? Huang Zhongyi finally asks, because the suspense is killing him. Chung Myung, cool as ever, scratches his head. So. You ever notice how healers in these situations always have to drag it out? Just spit it out, man. But no, we gotta milk this moment. I don't think treating it would be difficult. Hold up, what? Really? Are you sure? Yes, but I can't rush into it right away. Some preparations will need to be done. And here's where the real comedy begins. Preparations? Oh, I bet you're thinking he's gonna bust out some ancient Taoist rituals, right? Nah, first of all, Chung Myung says with a sly grin, let's eat. Yes, let's eat. Because obviously, this man is the human embodiment of Snickers. You're not you when you're hungry. Cue the food montage. Chung Myung's not just eating. He's going full-on medieval on this meal, tearing into a duck leg like he's been starved for years. Huang Zhongyi's over there, trying to make sense of it all. And honestly, we feel for the guy. He's like, is this guy even a real Taoist? Since when do they inhale food like a vacuum? Young Taoist? What? The preparations? When will they be done? I'm preparing now. Yep, he's really out here calling this a preparation. Turns out the treatment requires stamina, and nothing builds stamina like eating your weight in meat and chugging expensive liquor. Kwah! This is life. My guy is living his best life while the old man is one breath away from meeting his ancestors. Are you done? Wang Zhongyi asks, and honestly, bless his patience. No, this is just the beginning. Beginning? Beginning of what? A 7-course meal? Is he going to eat the entire kitchen before we even touch on the whole saving a life thing? Zhongyi tries to be polite, but the man's had enough. You didn't come here just to eat, right? What are you saying? Chung Myung replies through a mouthful of food. Taoists move with a purpose. Yeah, that purpose is clearly lunch. By this point, Zhongyi's getting desperate. His father's been bedridden for a year, and this Taoist is doing an all-you-can-eat tour of the town. My father, he bursts out, but Chung Myung just waves him off like he's not dying. Oh, the sass on this guy. Calm down, man, it's just your dad's life we're talking about. Then, with all the swagger in the world, Chung Myung finally drops the bomb. I've already taken some measures to ensure he won't die. When? Zhongyi is baffled, and honestly, we all are. I treated him. He treated him. When? Between the bites of duck and the gulps of alcohol? Did he pull a medical miracle out of his pocket while casually ordering more food? Zhongyi races out to check, and what do you know? The old man's actually getting better. Heck, and now we know this Taoist is something else. Of course, Chung Myung's not done yet. He's got some detective work to do now, asking, who is the person closest to your father? Oh, so we're in detective mode now? That's right. Chung Myung's not just a healer. He's part Sherlock, part Taoist, and part competitive eater. Turns out he's got a hunch someone on the inside is trying to do the old man in. Betrayal? Inside job? That's heavy stuff. But then, as always, Chung Myung's got his priorities. There's one more thing you need to do. What is it? Zhongyi asks, ready to assist in whatever way possible to save his father. One more bottle. Classic. Absolutely classic. Here's final thought. So, what did we learn today? If you ever need a life-saving Taoist, make sure to stock up your fridge, because apparently nothing gets done until the man has eaten his fill, and by fill, I mean the entire bank. Now, where were we? Ah yes, the genius Taoist Chung Myung on a mission to save lives and, more importantly, fill his stomach. Wang Zhongyi is trying to wrap his head around this new reality, where his father is on the mend. But instead of focusing on that, Chung Myung has set his sights on cracking a mystery. It's not enough to just cure the man. Oh no, he's got to find out who's behind this. You mean someone did this from the inside? Zhangyi asks, his face going pale. And really, who could blame him? It's not every day you find out there might be a snake in your inner circle. At first, I thought it was from the outside, Chung Myung replies, casually scratching his chin. But looking at Elder Huang's condition, I don't think so anymore. This was an inside job. Oh, here we go. Full conspiracy mode. Get your popcorn ready, folks. Wang Zhongyi, however, is not having it. Please refrain from such words, young Taoist. All members of the Yunhe merchants are like family. They've been with us their entire lives, and they all respect my father. Yeah, right. Because nobody ever betrays family, huh? That's why they made 6 Fast and Furious movies about it. Chung Myung isn't fazed. Or not, he says, as he casually pats his now very full stomach. At this point, you've got to wonder how Wang Zhongyi hasn't completely lost it. The man's father has been suffering for a year, and Chung Myung's just over here, treating this like a Sunday brunch. The guy's chewing through half the city's food supply, throwing out cryptic clues, and acting like he's in no rush. Zhongyi's trying to stay reasonable. If we suspect them and they're truly innocent, then it'll all be fine anyway, right? That is true. Gotta love how casually he's accepting this. Oh yeah, sure. Let's just suspect all of Dad's closest people of plotting murder. Totally normal day. Chung Myung leans back, looking all relaxed, and tells Zhongyi, so don't worry, we will investigate and find out. Wang Zhongyi nods, but you can tell the guy's losing hope. This whole thing is spiraling faster than a bad soap opera plot. If Chung Myung wasn't some child prodigy, you'd think he was just a really drunk Taoist who wandered in by accident. Seeing Zhongyi's stressed out face, Chung Myung clicks his tongue. He's pretty naive for a merchant. Ooh, shots fired. It's not enough that he's saving your dad and filling your pantry. Now he's calling you gullible too. Classy. Chung Myung's clearly seen the worst in people, and it shows. He's reminiscing about all the backstabbers he's encountered, monks who lost their cool, and Taoists who were a bit too handy with a knife. Life lesson from Chung Myung. Everyone's an angel until they have the opportunity to screw you over. Then, bam, devil horns. He knows that someone tried to off Wang Munyak, but the plot thickens. Whoever did this didn't fully understand the technique they were using, which is why the old man didn't kick the bucket earlier. It was just enough to weaken him, but over time, it's been getting worse. Zhongyi, still trying to be useful, asks, how do you plan on investigating? Chung Myung not missing a beat. I'm already doing it. Wait, what? Did I miss something? When did he start investigating? I thought we were still in the eating everything in sight phase. You're doing it? Zhongyi asks, clearly just as confused as the rest of us. Yes. You're eating food, but you say you are investigating? Ah, not that, Chung Myung says with a smirk, like we should have known all along. The fact that I'm in a room with the young master is enough for the investigation. Excuse me, what now? This guy just said sitting in a room with Zhongyi is enough to investigate? Is he some kind of psychic detective, or did he just come up with that on the spot because he wanted to eat more? But Chung Myung isn't done yet. Just watch. Soon a lot of fun things will happen. Young master, be sure to keep your eyes open. Okay, now he's just messing with the guy. Either that or something's about to go down. And if I know anything about Chung Myung, it's that he's got something up his sleeve. And then, to top it all off, he drops one last bomb. Ah, there is one more thing you need to do. What is it? Wang Zhongyi asks, mentally preparing himself for some deep investigative work. Chung Myung picks up the bottle next to him. One more bottle. That's it. I'm done. This guy's not just a Taoist, he's a comedian. Wang Zhongyi has to be questioning all his life choices right about now. The scene closes, with Wang Zhongyi staring blankly at Chung Myung, who, by all accounts, should be too full to even breathe at this point. But no, this man's asking for more drinks like he's at an all-night tavern. And as the tears of despair well up in Wang Zhongyi's eyes, concealed deep in his heart, we all know one thing. Chung Myung's got this. He's just going to do it in his own ridiculous, hilarious, and totally unpredictable way. Cue the intense traditional music, heavy atmosphere, and a guy who looks like he just bit into a lemon. Ki Mok-sung stares at the food in front of him like it personally offended him, Holding his chopsticks as if he's deciding whether to eat or just stab the plate, he eventually throws in the towel and sets them down. Clearly, food isn't the problem. His mood is. The poor disciples around him are playing the don't make eye contact game. You know, like when you're at work and your boss walks in pissed, and you're just hoping it's not your turn on the chopping block. Is the food not to your liking? One brave soul dares to ask, probably trying to avoid getting chewed out instead of the food. Kim Ok-sung grunts. Classic. It isn't the food, he says. I just don't feel well. Translation. Somebody messed up my vibe today, and you're all going to pay for it. Oh, did we mess up, sir? Just tell us, and we'll do the whole groveling apology thing, the disciple says, basically begging for a way out. It's not your fault, Mok-sung sighs, pushing the table away dramatically, like he's auditioning for a soap opera. There's a man I never wanted to see again, and now some punk with the same name is running around like it's a joke. Oh, things are about to get real petty, folks. Brace yourselves. A second-class disciple, Lee Song-baek, finally decides to poke the bear. Are you talking about that Mount Hua disciple? Kuff, kum. Mok-sung clears his throat in that obvious, I'm not going to say yes, but you know what's up kind of way. Subtle, real subtle. Another disciple jumps in, trying to rationalize all of this. Elder, I don't quite get it. What's a little kid even going to do? Mok-sung cuts him off, eyes narrowing. It's not the kid. It's the fact that he's from Mount Hua. Ooh, watch out. We've got a long-standing grudge, people. Somebody's holding on to high school drama like it's their full-time job. The disciples are totally lost. It's like their boss is mad about a rival company, but they don't get why, because the company in question went bankrupt years ago. Kim Ok-sung decides it's time for a history lesson. Didn't your sister tell you? Our sect and Mount Hua can't live under the same sky. Drama level 1000. Can you imagine being so extra that you literally can't exist under the same sky as another group? What's next? Hating someone because they breathe the same air? Now let's fast forward a bit. Mok-sung's getting really deep into his hatred for Mount Hua, talking about some old swordsman, Chung Myung, the Plum Blossom Sword Saint. Apparently, this guy was such a badass that even a century later, Mok-sung still hates his guts. The disciples, however, are looking at each other like, Bro, do you even remember your great-grandfather? No, neither do I. But we know Chung Myung better than our own family history. After some more grumbling, one of the smarter disciples, Lee Song-baek, comes up with a plan. He's like, hey, elder, why don't we just go and, gently persuade that Mount Hua brat to leave? Kim Ok-sung squints. You will? Oh yeah, it wouldn't look good if you did it, but we're just second-class disciples. We can rough him up a bit without anyone batting an eye, right? Ah, yes, the old, it's not bullying if we call it sparring routine. Mok-sung considers it, but still worries about how the world might view it. I mean, it might look like we're picking on a child. Mok-sung trails off. But Song-baek, ever the smooth talker, reassures him with a smile. Elder, who's gonna care? The world knows we have beef with Mount Hua. A little smackdown between disciples is just foreplay for the upcoming conference, right? See? Totally above board. Nothing shady here. Meanwhile, our boy Chung Myung, who, by the way, is the absolute definition of no chill, is just strolling through the city, minding his own business, probably humming some random tune like he's in a carefree anime intro. Lee Song-baek sees him coming and gets all excited. Should we do this right now? He asks the other disciples, who are clearly down for a good old-fashioned friendly fight. Song-baek swaggers over to Chung Myung, throwing out a formal greeting. I am Lee Song-baek of the Southern Edge Sect. A pleasure to meet you. Narrator. Oh, hi. Nice to meet you too. Cool story, bro, Chung Myung says like he couldn't care less. Song-baek is all polite and smooth. Where are you going? He asks. I'm gonna go check on Elder Wang's condition, Chung Myung replies. Dude's as casual as if he were saying, I'm going to grab a coffee. Like, no big deal, just gonna heal someone that your entire sect couldn't help. You know? Normal stuff. So of course, Song-baek can't let this go. He's gotta poke the bear. Hey, why don't we spar a bit? It's tradition between our sects. Chung Myung tilts his head and says, Oh, so you want to fight? Songbek clears his throat, clearly not expecting this reaction. No, not a fight. A spar, Chung smirks. Same difference. Oh, this is going to be good. Without skipping a beat, Chung Myung adds, I'm fine with a fight anytime. Just don't regret it later. And there it is, a humble but absolutely savage declaration. So we've got an elder with a century-old grudge, a bunch of disciples who don't know what they're getting into, and one super confident, cocky kid from Mount Hua who's about to turn this whole situation into an absolute mess. Stay tuned, folks. Things are about to get spicy. And cut. Cue the outro music, something upbeat with a hint of danger, because you know a fight's coming. So, where were we? Ah, right. Our boy Chung Myung has just dropped that casual, let's fight but don't cry about it later line. Lee Song-bak, being the proud disciple that he is, doesn't even flinch, on the surface at least. But you know that feeling when someone throws shade so smoothly, you don't even realize you've been burned until a few seconds later? That's what's happening here. In a faux deep, Lee Song-bak straightens up, probably thinking, all right, this kid's got guts. Let's see if he can back it up. He clears his throat again. Yeah, he's doing that a lot. Maybe it's nerves, or maybe he's just trying to stall before this inevitable disaster unfolds. Very well, Songbek says, his voice still steady, for now. Chung Myung, on the other hand, has the calm confidence of a guy who's already won the fight in his head. He cracks his knuckles, probably imagining all the ways he's going to embarrass these second-class disciples. And oh boy, are these guys in for a treat. They haven't realized yet that sparring with Chung Myung is like poking a bear while you're wearing a meat suit. It's just not going to end well. But hey, props to them for giving it a shot. You can't fault someone for trying, right? Even if their idea of trying is about to end in disaster. So, Songbak signals to his fellow disciples, giving them that I've got this nod. They all step back, forming a neat little circle around him and Chung Myung, like they're in some kind of martial arts movie showdown. I mean, if you're going to get your butt kicked, you might as well do it with an audience, right? Chung Myung stands there, arms crossed, waiting for the first move. There's no rush on his end. He's giving off that I could beat you with my eyes closed, but I'll humor you vibe. Songbak takes a deep breath, then moves. Fast. His sword flashes out, aiming for a clean, decisive strike. This guy's got skill. There's no denying that. But then, in an instant, Chung Myung dodges like it's the easiest thing in the world. You know when you try to swat a fly and it casually avoids your hand, like, nah, try harder? Yeah, that's Chung Myung right now. Poor Songbak. He probably expected more of a challenge. You can almost see the look on his face like, wait, what just happened? But no time to think. Chung Myung's already countering. And counter he does. With one fluid motion, Chung Myung taps Songbak's sword, sending it flying. Yep, the guy's sword is now gone. And Songbak? He's standing there, unarmed and confused. Oh man, this is the martial arts equivalent of pulling someone's pants down in public. Songbak tries to keep his dignity, but that ship sailed the second his sword left his hand. The other disciples are watching, eyes wide, probably thinking, uh-oh, we might have bitten off more than we can chew. But you can't back down now, right? They're in too deep. Lee Songbak gives Chung Myung a tight smile. I underestimated you, he says through gritted teeth, trying to salvage whatever pride he has left. Chung Myung shrugs, all casual. It happens. Oh, but it doesn't stop there, folks. Songbak isn't done yet. Even without his sword, he's ready to go hand to hand. He charges at Chung Myung, fists raised. Ah, the classic, I've got nothing to lose move. Desperate, but admirable. But just as expected, Chung Myung handles it with zero effort. With a quick sidestep and a light tap, Songbak goes tumbling to the ground, flat on his back. And there it is. Myung barely broke a sweat, while Songbak is probably reconsidering all of his life choices. I mean, at this point, why not just stay down and call it a day, right? But no. The other disciples, bless their hearts, still think they've got a chance. One of them steps forward, looking determined. My turn, he says. Oh, sweet summer child. This is going to end just like the last one. Myung, probably bored at this point, just motions for him to come at him. And guess what? Same result. Another disciple down. Another ego shattered. By the time it's all over, the disciples are lying around like they've just been hit by a truck. Myung, on the other hand, is standing there like it was a light warm-up. He dusts off his hands and gives them a polite nod. Well, that was fun. Let me know if you want another round. And with that, folks, our boy Myung saunters off, leaving behind a pile of bruised egos and aching bodies. I mean, seriously, how many times do you have to get beat down before you realize this guy's on a whole other level? Episode 54. Haha, what a great person has come. Lee Songbek frowned. Regret? Did he just say regret? What a fearless child, he thought. Usually, Lee Songbek wasn't one to judge by age or status, but this young punk from Mount Hua was strutting around like he owned the place. No matter how good he is, he mused, he doesn't even grasp the magnitude of the difference between his sect and the others. How can he hold his head high and make such shameless claims, especially when his sect is at the bottom? He sighed, channeling his inner Zen master. So, you're saying you agree to spar? Yes, came the blunt, calm reply. Lee Songbek cleared his throat. What is your Taoist name? Don't have one. I'm Myung. Myung, it is, he said, already knowing but asking for the sake of protocol. Listen here, disciple Myung. I'll give you a piece of advice. You might think your confidence is charming, but the world doesn't revolve around you. I suggest you return to Mount Hua. Aren't we going to fight? Myung interrupted, stifling a yawn like he was waiting for the main act at a boring theater. Lee Songbak flinched, but the kid was relentless. Seems like the Southern Edge sect fights with their mouths. You wanted to fight, so why waste my time with chatter? Lee Songbak's lips twitched into a smile, albeit one laced with irritation. My discipline is lacking, he thought, feeling the urge to teach this cheeky brat a lesson. No need to rush. We'll start now. As he reached for his sword, Go Hui gently tugged at his sleeve. Sahyung, you're going to do this yourself? You don't have to, Sahyung. I'll handle it, Go Hui insisted. No. Lee Songbak's gaze was firm. There's a minimum courtesy we must show the opponent. I'm the most mature here, so fighting against me won't be too shameful for that child. Go Hui sighed, resigned. Sahyung is too much, he thought, knowing he was in a position to be a great disciple of the sect. The Southern Edge sect's Lee Songbak wants to spar with Mount Hua's Myung, he announced. Ah, wait a minute, Myung interjected. What now? Lee Songbak asked, exasperated. Lend me your sword, Myung requested. Go Hui's eyes nearly popped out. Borrow my sword? How could a disciple from a once prestigious sect be this casual? In swordsmanship training, the first lesson is to guard your weapon like it's your last slice of pizza. Are you saying disciples of your sect don't even carry their own swords? Go Hui asked incredulously. Well, I didn't expect a fight, Myung replied, shrugging. Mount Hua is? Go Hui started, but Myung cut him off. Don't bother if you don't want to. Myung turned to check if there was a stick lying around that he could use instead of a sword. Lee Songbak frowned. Lend him your sword. Sahyung, Go Hui protested. Do you want people to say that disciples of the Southern Edge sect fought a disciple of Mount Hua without a proper sword? Lee Songbak shot back. Go Hui sighed, defeated. Soon after, he unbuckled the sword at his waist and tossed it to Myung. Thanks. Myung caught it with one hand and grinned. Let's get started, shall we? Won't you unsheath it? Lee Songbak asked, confused. I'm not planning on killing you. It'll stay like this. You can unsheath yours if you want to, though. Lee Songbak closed his eyes, muttering a silent prayer. Shit! The more I talk to this kid, the more I feel like I'm losing my sanity. Taking a deep breath, he raised his sword, ready to show this young whippersnapper a thing or two. Initially, he only intended to scare him off, but now it felt like the kid needed a good smackdown. Don't let your guard down. Yeah, Yeah, Chung Myung replied casually, lifting his sheathed sword like it was a feather. Li Songbek frowned. You better do this right. My hands are strong and fast. It'll be too late to regret it after you've been struck. Chung Myung sighed dramatically. Hurry up, will you? What are we still standing around for? Come at me. Li Songbek's anger flared. You! With that, he tossed all manners of a Taoist out the window and charged at Chung Myung. Fat! The clear, powerful sword of the Southern Edge sect sliced through the air, a weapon of lethal precision. Among the 10 sects, each was known for its unique swordsmanship. The Wudang sect wielded soft swords. Mount Hua's was flashy, while the Southern Edge's was straightforward and serious, like a no-nonsense dad telling you to clean your room. His heavy sword aimed straight at Chung Myung's neck, but the kid merely raised his sword and blocked the attack with an effortless clang. Kang! Ta! Li Songbek swung again, this time aiming for Chung Myung's flank, pouring all his strength into the blow. Kang! Chung Myung barely held his ground, stepping back as the force of Li Songbek's attack bore down on him. The crowd could only watch in a mix of awe and horror. Whoa, Go-wee chuckled. Sahyung seems quite angry. He doesn't seem keen on ending this anytime soon. Right? Go-wee smiled, watching the scene unfold. That kid just kept running his mouth and ended up riling Sahyung up. You really need to judge who you can afford to offend. Is Sahyung scolding that child now? Wei Han-su asked, raising an eyebrow. Yes, he can end this whenever he wants, but look at him go. He's teaching that kid a lesson without even needing to land a hit. Honestly, Go-wee said with pride, Sahyung doesn't even need to try this hard. That kid should be grateful for this lesson. Back on the battlefield, Li Songbek was starting to feel the pressure. His attacks were relentless, and yet Chung Myung was still blocking like a pro. Blocked again? How is this happening? It didn't make sense. Li Songbek was pouring on the speed and strength, and yet somehow that kid kept anticipating his every move. It felt like he was reading Li Songbek's mind. Was he a ghost? Ah! Li Songbek groaned, swinging harder. Chung Myung, who looked younger than his brother, was somehow managing to stand up against the renowned sword of the Southern Edge sect. Impossible, Li Songbek thought, frustration bubbling over. His sword glowed with chi, the air around it crackling with energy. Swash! A fierce gale erupted from his blade, and yet... Kang! Chung Myung's sword stood firm. It felt like a wall. Ache! Li Songbek swung again with all his might. Hayat! Go-wee screamed, panic rising. Sahyung! Don't overdo it! Li Songbek's ears rang with Go-wee's warning, and in that moment, he recalled his chi. He didn't mean to go overboard, but there was no going back now. Kwang! In a burst of chaotic energy, Chung Myung was sent crashing against the wall like a rag doll. Huh! Li Songbek's eyes widened. Slide! Thud! Chung Myung slid down the wall, leaving behind a spiderweb of cracks, blood dribbling from his mouth like a fountain. Pwah! Blood erupted from his lips as if he were a gory fountain show. The crowd froze, horrified. Li Songbek's face drained of color. What did I do? Cough! Cough! Chung Myung struggled, blood splattering everywhere. He looked like he might flop over any second. Just when Li Songbek finally gathered his wits to rush over, a voice boomed through the stunned silence. What the hell is going on here? All eyes turned to the furious figure of Huang Zhongyi, his face a mask of rage. Li Songbek closed his eyes tightly, bracing for the storm that was about to hit. Huang Zhongyi's presence was like a thunderstorm rolling in on a sunny day. What the hell is going on here? He thundered, eyes darting from Chung Myung's crumpled form to Li Songbek, who was now sweating bullets. Li Songbek stammered, I was just teaching him a lesson. Teaching him a lesson? You nearly turned him into a pancake. Huang Zhongyi's voice boomed, echoing off the walls. The crowd shifted nervously. You could almost hear the collective uh-oh as Li Songbek realized he'd gone a bit too far. Chung Myung. Huang Zhongyi rushed to the fallen disciple, kneeling beside him. You okay? Breathe. Inhale through the nose, out through the mouth. No, wait, spit out the blood first. Chung Myung, still sprawled out, raised a weak hand and managed a thumbs up that looked more like he was signaling for help than reassurance. I'm good, just practicing my fountain act. The onlookers chuckled nervously. Huang Zhongyi shot them a glare that could freeze boiling water. This isn't funny! He's hurt! Hey, at least he's got the makings of a great performer, one disciple whispered, stifling a laugh. Shut it! Huang snapped, but it was hard to keep a straight face with Chung Myung's blood spatter looking like modern art on the training ground. Meanwhile, Li Songbek was struggling with his conscience. I thought he could take it. I mean, he's got that whole I'm invincible vibe going on, he mumbled, clearly trying to convince himself more than anyone else. Invincible? More like hospital-bound now. Go Hui muttered under his breath, crossing his arms. Chung Myung finally managed to sit up, wiping his mouth dramatically. Wow, Sa-young, next time, can you use a little less force? I thought I was auditioning for a tragic hero role. Huang Zhongyi turned back, his expression shifting from anger to concern. Can you stand? Chung Myung grinned, albeit with blood-stained teeth. Of course, just give me a moment to remember my name and what year it is. The crowd erupted in laughter, breaking the tension. Li Songbek sighed, relief washing over him. Well, at least he still has his sense of humor. Yeah, I'd say that's a plus, Go Wei replied, shaking his head. I've seen people lose it after a gentle tap, but you? You just got hit by a freight train and came back with a punchline. As Chung Myung staggered to his feet, he gave a dramatic bow. Thank you, thank you. I'll be here all week. Just don't send me flying into walls again, or I might consider a career change. Wang Zhongyi couldn't help but chuckle this time, though he still shot a warning glance at Li Songbek. Keep it together next time, or you'll be the one auditioning for a tragic role. Understood. Li Songbek nodded, a hint of shame lingering. I'll go easy on him next time. Maybe. As the crowd dispersed, Chung Myung wobbled slightly, but was clearly in high spirits, despite the rough sparring session. Next time, I'll borrow a real sword. But for now, I think I'll stick to soft weapons, like pillows. And so, the day concluded with lessons learned, egos bruised, and a newfound camaraderie that perhaps only a near-death experience could forge. As they walked away, Chung Myung couldn't resist adding, just think, if I had died, my funeral would have been a hit. The laughter that followed echoed through the training ground, a testament to the spirit of resilience and the absurdity of it all. Episode 55. Haha, what a great person has come. 5. I asked you, what the hell is happening? Wang Zhongyi's voice boomed like a thunderclap, echoing through the confused crowd of Southern Edge Sect disciples. They stood frozen, eyes wide, like deer caught in headlights. What could they possibly say? Oops. Didn't quite cover it. Cough. Cough. Silence hung thick in the air, punctuated only by the disturbing sounds of Chung Myung's labored breathing, blood pooling beneath him like a forgotten red carpet. In this chaos, even the wisest strategists from ages past couldn't spin a convincing excuse. Huang Zhongyi's frustration reached a boiling point. Get a physician, now! There must be someone around here who hasn't fled in terror. His urgency was palpable, and one of the servants shot off like a sprinter at a starting gun. As Huang Zhongyi approached Chung Myung, the disciples parted like the Red Sea, unsure if they were witnessing a healing or an impending funeral. Kneeling down, Huang Zhongyi's anger flared, distorting his face as if he were auditioning for the role of angry dad. You dare call yourselves righteous? His words cut through the air. Is this how you treat a child? I thought the Southern Edge sect had some dignity, but clearly I was wrong. This isn't how we roll. Li Songbek, standing nearby, went pale as a ghost at the prospect of an angry mob's pitchforks. Well, metaphorical ones, since they were still standing awkwardly around. I never meant to hurt him that badly, he thought desperately, recalling his earlier bravado. I even dialed it back. Just as he stood there frozen, a physician burst onto the scene, eyes wide as saucers. Hurry! Move him inside. Be careful. His insides are a total mess. The physician's urgency was matched only by Huang Zhongyi's murderous glare toward the Southern Edge disciples. Stay back, Huang Zhongyi roared. No one touches him but my servants. His fiery eyes were like lasers, and the disciples flinched, remembering their lessons on survival. Primarily, avoid the wrath of Huang Zhongyi at all costs. Careful, careful, the physician barked as they gingerly lifted Chung Myung, blood dribbling down like a tragic art piece. As Chung Myung was whisked away, Huang Zhongyi turned to the remaining disciples, his voice low and simmering. I will never forget this day. Young master, one of them protested, but Huang Zhongyi's glare was colder than a winter's morning. Leave, he commanded, a simple yet effective dismissal that left Li Songbek sweating bullets. This was no mere scolding. It was a threat wrapped in dignity. Suddenly, a new figure entered the fray, Ki Moksung, looking perplexed. What is all this? He surveyed the chaos, eyes landing on the blood-stained floor. Is that blood? Oh, the horror! Ki Moksung could read the room better than a gossip columnist at a wedding. His gaze landed on Lee Song-baek, who had the audacity to look like he'd just stepped off a roller coaster. Young master, if some accident has occurred... Accident? Wang Zhongyi spat. Do you call this an accident? My eyes and ears are telling a different story. Lee Song-baek's throat went dry. I didn't use much force. It was just a little spar. A spar? Wang Zhongyi's disbelief was almost comical. Since when do you challenge children to duels? Were you planning to take him out for ice cream afterward? Silence fell, as no one could muster a defense against such logic. A child bleeding out on the floor wasn't exactly a smooth comeback. I won't say much more. Take your disciples and get out of my sight. Young master, just let me explain. Leave now. Wang Zhongyi's voice left no room for negotiation. Ki Moksung glared at Lee Song-baek, who looked like he'd just been sentenced to hard labor. Elder, Your fault. You clean it up. Apologize to the young master and make it good. I'm heading back to the mountain. Panic washed over Lee Song-baek. Apologize? How do you apologize for turning a kid into a human panada? Yes, elder, he murmured, resigned. The disciples shuffled away, casting pitying glances at Lee Song-baek, who bit his lip like it held the answers to the universe. How is his condition? One of them asked, half-heartedly hoping for good news. Not so good, came the grim reply. Great. Wang Zhongyi's expression darkened further. The physician's report felt like a dagger to the gut. Does that mean he won't die? Seems like it. Thank goodness, Wang Zhongyi sighed. The thought of Chung Myung, his only hope for his father's recovery, being lost due to some knuckleheads was unbearable. Yet, his thoughts churned with irritation. This could have been avoided if the Southern Edge sect had just kept their egos in check. Arrogance will be their downfall, he thought, wishing he could send them a memo to that effect. Then, how long will it take for him to wake? Wang Zhongyi pressed. 2 or 3 days. Just my luck. Wang Zhongyi sighed, feeling as if the universe had placed a personal curse on him. Will this child really be able to cure the elder? The general head asked cautiously. Is there anything we lose by believing him? Wang Zhongyi shot back. Fair point, the general conceded. Wang Zhongyi's tone turned firm. No one else has figured out my father's illness. This boy can list symptoms without even glancing at my father. We just need to make sure he recovers. I'll keep that in mind. The general bowed, leaving Wang Zhongyi alone with his thoughts. As he watched the door close, he let out a heavy sigh. Wheeze, wheeze. In the dim light, Chung Myung lay weak, his breath barely a whisper. Suddenly, the door creaked open. A shadowy figure slipped inside, stealthier than a cat burglar on a caffeine high. Wheeze, wheeze. The intruder eyed Chung Myung, hand raised, fingers ink-stained and menacing. No grudges here. Just think of this as a friendly reminder to not disrupt my work. With a swift motion, the figure lunged for Chung Myung's neck. But grab! Chung Myung, who looked like a rag doll 1 second, shot up, seizing the intruder's wrist with surprising strength. Ugh! The figure gasped, eyes widening. Chung Myung grinned, the kind of smile that could make a villain rethink their life choices. I got you, you son of a bitch! And with that, the chaos continued, promising an even wilder ride ahead. The mysterious intruder, caught off guard, struggled to free his wrist from Chung Myung's grip, eyes darting around like a cornered rat. Who knew a kid could pack such a punch? He muttered, trying to regain his composure. I'm not here for a scrap, just a little. A little what? Chung Myung interjected, his voice laced with sarcasm. A little friendly neck massage? Because I'm not really in the mood for a spa day right now. The intruder grimaced, realizing he was dealing with a feisty one. Look, I don't want any trouble. Just let me. Let you what? Slip away like a thief in the night? Not happening. Chung Myung tightened his grip, his eyes gleaming with mischief. You picked the wrong kid to mess with. I've got more tricks up my sleeve than a magician at a children's party. Outside, the commotion had attracted attention. Wang Zhongyi, hearing the ruckus, rushed back, ready to unleash his fury. What now? He bellowed, only to freeze at the sight. Chung Myung had flipped the script on the would-be assailant, now practically pinning him down. Oh, look, a live demonstration of how to fail spectacularly, Chung Myung quipped, enjoying his moment in the spotlight. Huang Zhongyi couldn't help but smirk, the tension in his chest easing slightly. You've got quite the knack for trouble, don't you? Just keeping it interesting. Chung Myung replied, puffing out his chest like a proud rooster. Now, who's this joker? The intruder, realizing he was outmatched, decided to switch tactics. All right. I'm not your enemy. Just a humble messenger. A messenger? Huang Zhongyi raised an eyebrow, a hint of skepticism lacing his tone. Spare me the theatrics. What's the message? That you're bad at your job? Actually, Cut to the chase, please. Chung Myung interrupted, still holding the intruder in a vice grip. You're lucky I'm not in the mood to deliver a proper beating. With a resigned sigh, the intruder relented. Fine. I was sent to warn you about a bigger threat looming over the Yunhe Merchant Guild. Something much worse than me, if you can believe it. Spill it, Wang Zhongyi demanded, his expression turning serious. The intruder glanced around nervously, clearly feeling the weight of the situation. There's a faction out there looking to undermine the guild's influence. They're gathering support, and their first target is the Mount Hua Sect. Figures, Chung Myung muttered, releasing the man's wrist and letting him scramble back to his feet. Why do villains always seem to target the underdogs? Because it's easier, the intruder shot back, brushing himself off. You think they want to fight someone their own size? Huang Zhongyi stepped forward, determination igniting in his eyes. We can't let that happen. If they're targeting Mount Hua, we need to unite our forces. Right, Chung Myung chimed in, now fully on board. Time to show these wannabe villains what we're made of. Let's gather everyone and... Hold on, the intruder interrupted, raising a hand. You can't just charge in without a plan. That's how you get yourself killed. Then what do you suggest? Huang Zhongyi asked, crossing his arms. The intruder smirked, a glint of mischief in his eyes. First, you let me go. Then I'll share everything I know. You might even want to consider recruiting me. I could be useful. Usefulness comes at a price, Chung Myung quipped, glancing at Huang Zhongyi. What's your skill set? Sneaking around like a mouse? Better, I know how to create diversions. And trust me, you'll need those when the time comes, the intruder replied confidently. Huang Zhongyi deliberated for a moment before nodding. All right, you've got a deal, but if you betray us, I'll make sure you regret it. Fair enough, the intruder said, a grin spreading across his face. Now, where do we start? Gathering intel, Chung Myung said, brimming with enthusiasm. And maybe a snack. This adventure is making me hungry. Priorities, right? Wang Zhongyi chuckled, shaking his head in disbelief. Let's get to work. And just like that, the unexpected team-up began, setting the stage for the larger conflict ahead. As they plotted, the stakes rose and the air crackled with the promise of action, intrigue, and perhaps a few more snarky one-liners along the way. At episode 56, Are You Really a Taoist? I got you, you rascal. Chung Myung grinned as he stood up, his grip on the man's wrist unwavering. The guy struggled to break free, but Chung Myung's hold was like a vice. You! The man raised his other hand, ready to strike. But just then, the door swung open, illuminating the room dramatically. In walked Huang Zhongyi, looking as serious as a character from a suspense film. What are you doing here, General? He asked, his voice heavy. Baeon Jabok, the general head of Yunhe, stared in shock as Chung Myung held him in place. Young master, I'm asking you what you're doing here. Baeon Jabok's expression twisted. I just wanted to check the condition of the... Chung Myung interrupted, a smirk on his face. Ah, you wanted to check my condition and take me out? He waved the wrist he held as if it were a banner. You've misunderstood. Misunderstood, I love misunderstandings. Chung Myung jumped to his feet, looking as innocent as a puppy caught chewing a shoe. Baeon Jabok stared wide-eyed. It was clearly a serious injury. It must have been a misunderstanding. I was perfectly fine from the start. You were unconscious. Oh, I just haven't been sleeping well. Just overdue for a nap. Baeon Jabok clenched his teeth. You deceived me. Hey, you shouldn't say that. Just insist it was a misunderstanding. If you don't, everyone will think you were plotting something. You. He struck at Chung Myung with his left hand, but Chung Myung dodged effortlessly. He let go and strolled over to Huang Zhongyi. Look, didn't I tell you he would show up? Wang Zhongyi nodded, still processing the chaos. I didn't believe you before, but now I never expected the general head would act like this. Huang Zhongyi shot Baeon Jabok a glare that could freeze fire. How did you come to doubt me? Beonjabak asked, incredulous. I didn't. What? Chung Myung shrugged. I didn't know who the wrongdoer was. I just figured the culprit would try to take out Elder Huang's savior if they thought I was down for the count. What if I hadn't come? You didn't have a choice, Chung Myung replied with a cheeky grin. It's hard to make a first kill, but the second is easier. Plus, if you did me in now, you could just blame it on the Southern Edge sect. Why pass up that opportunity? So you planned this with the Southern Edge sect? Beonjabak asked, skepticism dripping from his words. Nope. Beonjabak's face went blank. You didn't? Yep. They just happened to pick a fight with me. I was already figuring out how to deal with the situation when they came along and made it easier. Beonjabak bit his lip in frustration. Internal wounds. The physician said you were severely injured. If I couldn't even fool a normal physician, I wouldn't bother with this whole charade. You keep asking the obvious. Chung Myung shrugged, a master at sidestepping. You have questions, but I'm under no obligation to satisfy your curiosity. What matters is you fell into the trap, and I found the one who tried to harm Elder Huang. Ha! In an instant, Beonjabak turned to Huang Zhongyi. Young master, surely you don't believe that kid, right? Is there a reason for me not to believe him? Aren't you the rational one? Isn't there something more important than what the kid is saying? More important? Yes. Just because I tried to harm him doesn't mean I wanted to hurt the master. Why would I do that? Think of how well the master has treated me. Why would I betray him? Young master, isn't that why you never suspected me? Wang Zhongyi frowned, considering the half-baked logic. Then why did you try to take out the young Taoist? Why hide that you learned martial arts? That kid was deceiving you. Even you fell for his claims that he could help your father. How can he help him? Then you should have persuaded me. Would you have listened? It's easier to fool someone than to convince them they've been fooled. Taking out that kid was the only way to snap you out of it. Murmurs spread through the room, and Chung Myung stepped forward. Are you done talking? Beonjabak glared at him. It's true I tried to take him out, but I never meant to harm the master. You. Chung Myung waved his hand, cutting him off. Enough. I don't want to hear your reasons or excuses. What? I'm just going to deal with you. Before anyone could react, Chung Myung charged at Beonjabak, aiming for a decisive strike. Kwang! Their hands collided, and Chung Myung quickly retreated, raising his arm to draw attention. Now, attention please! That! Everyone gaped at his arm, which had taken on an alarming color. Slowly, it shifted to red. Chung Myung addressed the onlookers theatrically. Demon hand. He gestured as if presenting a magic trick. Normal people can't handle a single hit. Their whole body turns red before they check out. Sure, this guy's not a pro, but even he could drop someone who hasn't seen a dojo in ages. While Beonjabak scrambled for an escape, Chung Myung continued. If you can name another person who hangs around Elder Huang and confuse him with demonic chi, please do. A decisive blow. Trust in Beonjabak crumbled like a house of cards. You, a brat who doesn't appreciate the grace shown to you. How dare you try to take out our master and act like this? I won't calm down until I take you down. With that, Wang Zhongyi took control. Capture him. At his command, silence descended. Subdue that man. If he resists, handle him. As his orders echoed, the servants rushed in. Beonjabak prepared to fight. Ack! Ugh! The new arrivals were swept away by Beonjabak's frantic energy. Damn it! It was almost over. He glared at Chung Myung. If it wasn't for that kid. Who are you calling a kid? Chung Myung shot back, visibly irritated. A little longer, and I would have succeeded. If I had known this would happen, I would have handled you first. If you hadn't filled that young master's head with nonsense. Chung Myung waved his hand again. Well, of course, you must have something to say, but let's talk about it later. For now, let's finish this quickly. I'm a bit sleepy after being jolted from a nice nap. What? Beonjabak erupted. Ha ha ha! You think you can defeat me with your so-called martial arts? Nope. Huh? Why would I bother? There are others here to handle that. There. Chung Myung pointed behind him. Huh, me? Lee Songbek, who had been observing in confusion, looked surprised. Me? Oh, the youngest hero has arrived to take down the bad guy. Please do your best. Wait, me? Who else? Chung Myung's eyes were wide as he urged him on. Li Songbak finally connected the dots. With everyone else gone, he was the only one left. Why me? He felt put on the spot. But then he saw Huang Zhongyi's intense gaze and realized this was his chance at redemption. The enemy will be dealt with by the sword of the Southern Edge sect. With determination, Li Songbek drew his sword and charged forward, while Cheng Myung cheered. Wow, such heroism! As the battle unfolded, Cheng Myung strolled over to Huang Zhongyi. One matter resolved. It isn't over yet. He'll take him down soon enough. He's still a famous disciple. There's no way he'll lose to someone who hasn't mastered martial arts. Not mastered? He injured your hand. Cheng Myung displayed his wrist, showing the colors as if it were a work of art. I didn't lie. He knows the demon hand. I just exaggerated a bit to illustrate the effects. Wang Zhongyi sighed deeply, disbelief etched on his face. Are you really a Taoist? Of course. The greatest and most experienced master in the world. Don't believe me? It's the truth. As Li Songbak lunged forward, his sword gleaming, Cheng Myung couldn't help but cheer him on. That's it. Show him what you've got. Right. Here goes nothing. Li Songbak shouted, a mix of excitement and dread in his voice. Bayan Jabak, still reeling from the chaos, narrowed his eyes. You think a kid like you can take me on? Watch me, Li Songbak replied. Determination burning in his gaze. With a swift motion, Li swung his sword, aiming for Bayan Jabak. But the general was quick on his feet, dodging to the side and countering with a powerful strike of his own. Is that all you've got? Bayan Jabak taunted, a smirk plastered on his face. Li gritted his teeth, narrowly avoiding the blow. I'm just warming up. Cheng Myung watched with amusement. Come on, Li. Remember what I taught you. Less flailing, more finesse. Easier said than done. Li shot back, focusing hard. He had never been in a situation quite like this before. The fight raged on, and each clash echoed through the room, tension rising with every blow exchanged. Cheng Myung couldn't help but inject some humor into the atmosphere. You know, if you're going to lose, at least do it dramatically. Shut up, Li grunted, sweat beading on his forehead. I'm trying to be serious here. Serious? In a battle? How boring. Cheng Myung laughed. Meanwhile, Bayan Jabak began to lose his patience. Enough games. I won't let a brat like you get the better of me. Li steadied himself, recalling his training. He had to focus. For Elder Huang, he shouted, channeling his energy into a fierce strike. But just as he lunged, Bayan Jabak countered, catching Li off guard. The general's hand clashed with Li's sword, sending him stumbling back. See? You're outmatched! Bayan Jabak gloated, a sense of triumph washing over him. Cheng Myung felt the tension shift. Hey, Li, remember that one trick I showed you? Now's the time. Li's eyes widened as he remembered the technique. Right. He steadied his grip, summoning his inner strength. As he charged again, this time with newfound confidence, Cheng Myung added, and don't forget to look cool while doing it. With a renewed sense of purpose, Li made his move, employing the technique Cheng Myung had taught him. He dodged Bayan Jabak's attack and delivered a swift strike, catching the general off guard. What? Bayan Jabak stumbled back, surprise written all over his face. Gotcha! Li exclaimed, adrenaline coursing through him. The room erupted in shouts and gasps from the onlookers, witnessing the unexpected turn of events. Cheng Myung couldn't help but cheer. Now that's what I'm talking about! You've got this! Fueled by Cheng Myung's encouragement, Li pressed on, combining agility and precision. For Elder Huang, he yelled again, determination shining in his eyes. Bayan Jabak, now on the defensive, realized he needed to change tactics. You think you can win? I won't let a child take me down. With a fierce glare, he launched himself at Li, intent on regaining control of the fight. But Li was ready. He dodged and countered with a series of strikes, pushing Bayan Jabak back. Stop! Just stop! Bayan Jabak shouted, frustration evident in his voice. Not a chance. Li shot back, confidence surging. This ends now. Cheng Myung watched the battle unfold, impressed by Li's transformation. Who knew you had it in you? Just don't let it get to your head. With one final surge of energy, Li delivered a decisive blow, catching Bayan Jabak off guard once more. The general staggered back, clearly shaken. Enough, Bayan Jabak growled, anger flashing in his eyes. I'll show you. But before he could recover, Cheng Myung stepped in. Looks like your time is up, buddy. With a swift move, he disarmed Bayan Jabak, sending his weapon clattering to the ground. Now, how about a little chat? Beonjabok's expression shifted from defiance to fear as he realized his position. You can't just... Oh, I can and I will. Chunmyung smirked, turning to Huang Zhongyi. How about we wrap this up? I think we've had enough of this little charade. Huang Zhongyi nodded, his expression serious. Indeed, we can't let someone who tried to harm the master roam free. As the servants moved to capture Beonjabok, Chung Myung added with a wink, and I'd say we've found a new definition for getting schooled. As the tension in the room began to dissipate, Chung Myung turned to Lee. You did great. I knew you had it in you. Lee beamed, finally feeling the weight of his achievement. Thanks. I couldn't have done it without your help. Just remember, next time, less flailing, more finesse, Chung Myung teased. Sure, but if I do flail, I'll make it look good, Lee shot back, grinning. With the confrontation resolved and Beonjabok subdued, the atmosphere lightened. Huang Zhongyi sighed in relief. Thank you both. We'll need to discuss this further, but for now, let's ensure Elder Huang is safe. Agreed, Chung Myung replied, clapping Lee on the back. Now, who's up for some snacks? I could use a little victory feast. Count me in. Lee said, the adrenaline still buzzing through him. As they all moved forward, the events of the day transformed into stories that would be retold, a blend of laughter and camaraderie lighting the path ahead. Episode 57, Are You Really a Taoist? 2. The general wouldn't last much longer. No, actually, the man was hanging in there way longer than anyone expected. Lee Song-baek, who had leaped into the fight with the confidence of a guy who just told his girlfriend he could fix her car when he couldn't, had now been desperately battling for over an hour. Honestly, it was hard to tell if this was a tense battle that had everyone sweating, or if it just looked like Lee Song-baek was fighting his inner demons of self-doubt. Either way, one person didn't care much. Chung Myung, who was currently yawning like he'd been watching a soap opera on mute. I thought he'd take him down right away. Should I have done it myself? But watching Lee Song-baek drip sweat like a guy trying to outrun his ex's text messages, Chung Myung decided to keep his mouth shut, for once. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the tired hero was smiling triumphantly, as if taking a full hour to win this fight was something to be proud of. Wipe off your sweat, man. You look like you're 2 breaths away from fainting, Chung Myung thought. Huh, the man, the man, took him down. Huang Zhongyi nodded, giving Lee Song-baek the kind of pitiful look you give someone who just tried to show off and tripped in front of a crowd. Lee Song-baek, trembling like a cat that had fallen in the water, was breathing raggedly. You've worked hard. The Yunha Merchant Guild will never forget this help, Huang Zhongyi said with a mix of gratitude and please don't collapse. Thank you. Get some rest, Huang Zhongyi said, more worried that Lee Song-baek would collapse than actually caring about his well-being. And just like that, Lee Song-baek dropped down to the ground, not even bothering to answer, like a man who just gave up on life after finding out his favorite pizza place was closed. Normally, Huang Zhongyi wouldn't feel this much gratitude for a guy who made such a big deal out of such a small fight. But seeing Lee Song-baek lying there like he just ran a marathon for a single dollar, he let it go. I don't know what to say about this situation, Huang Zhongyi thought. 2 days. It had only been 2 days since Chung Myung had arrived here, and yet in those 2 days, he had solved a problem that had been a thorn in their side for over a year. Was this problem that easy to fix? Absolutely not. It was just that everything seems simple when the hard work is already done. If it was so easy, why hadn't any of the experts who showed up before figured it out? Huang Zhongyi was starting to wonder if Chung Myung was secretly an old master trapped in the body of a kid. But that couldn't be possible, right? I think it's almost resolved now, Chung Myung said, with the confidence of someone who just finessed a free meal by pretending they forgot their wallet. Why did the general head target my father? Huang Zhongyi asked, trying to sound serious. I don't know, Chung Myung shrugged. You didn't do this because you had a reason or a guess? Huang Zhongyi asked, a little shocked. Nope, Chung Myung said bluntly. Huang Zhongyi stared at him, confused. Was he seriously dealing with a guy who solved things without knowing why? It was like hiring a plumber who fixed your pipes but didn't know what water was. Chung Myung, seeing that Huang Zhongyi was about to lose his mind, tried to calm him down. It's the government's job to figure out the why. My job is to solve the problem and get the reward. Speaking of which, you do have my reward ready, right? You'd think a man would at least be subtle about asking for payment after saving someone's life. Not Chung Myung. This man had zero shame, zero pride, just the will to get paid. He used to be the famous plum blossom sword saint, the pride of Mount Hua Sect. Now, he was just a third-class disciple with the self-worth of a guy begging for change at the corner store. Still, Wang Zhongyi couldn't help but nod, albeit a bit confused. Of course, but don't get ahead of yourself. The problem isn't fully solved yet. I didn't just ask you to find the assassin. I want my father up and walking. That's what you promised, right? Chung Myung sighed, rolling his eyes. Yeah, that comes next. He stepped closer to Wang Zhongyi, who promised, I swear, I will support Mount Hua, even if it means turning my guild upside down and standing against the world. Moved by the sincerity of those words, Chung Myung grabbed his hand tightly. Wang Zhongyi smiled, thinking he'd struck a chord in Chung Myung's heart. You don't have to be so moved. This is the least I can do. Are you fucking kidding me? Chung Myung snapped, his face contorted like someone had insulted his entire family line. Huh? Wang Zhongyi blinked, confused. The reward is for me, not Mount Hua. I'm the one doing all the hard work here, and you want them to take all the credit in cash? Oh, hell no. Chung Myung raged. Wang Zhongyi was speechless, once again realizing this kid was crazier than he thought. From there, Chung Myung proceeds to take on the delicate task of healing Wang Munyak, the man whose condition is so dire that even Chung Myung has doubts. But what's life without a little gamble, right? He pours his qi into Wang Munyak's body, and with every step of the healing process, we get one step closer to success or disaster. Chung Myung now stood in front of Wang Munyak's bed, his mouth dry. Now all he had to do was make the treatment work, and everything would be solved. And then, reward time. Oh yes, he was ready for that. Everything had gone perfectly so far. Not too difficult, and he'd even gotten to mess with the Southern Edge sect a bit, which was honestly the highlight of his week. But there was one little snag in this master plan. Honestly, I'm not entirely confident. Now, Chung Myung was no stranger to handling a little demonic qi. Hell, if this were him back in the day as the legendary Plum Blossom Sword Saint, this would have been easy. But right now, with his current tiny body that had the strength of a small child who can't open a pickle jar? Yeah, not so much. Sure, his qi was pure and he knew how to control it. But if things went sideways, Elder Huang wouldn't just be sick. He'd be dead faster than a drunk guy trying to impress his friends with a backflip. Will this work? Chung Myung muttered to himself. Only one way to find out. It was either try or let the old man die. And even though Chung Myung wasn't exactly in a rush to become a doctor, leaving a guy to die because you're too scared to try wasn't exactly the Taoist way. If something goes wrong, don't resent me, he said, more to himself than to the unconscious elder. He wasn't planning on any failures today, but hey, life's full of surprises, and not all of them are pleasant. Chung Myung took a deep breath, stepped forward, and placed his hand on Elder Huang's dantian, slowly pushing his qi into the old man's body. His qi started to flow like a peaceful river, except this river had the power to kick demonic energy's ass all the way to the afterlife. At first, the qi moved smoothly. Then, to Chung Myung's surprise, the dark, corrupted qi inside Elder Huang's body began to retreat. Oh? That wasn't normal. He'd seen demonic qi act like a drunken brawler before, aggressive, nasty, and always looking for a fight. But this qi was running away like it had just seen its ex at the grocery store and didn't want to make small talk. Well, this is interesting, Chung Myung thought. His qi wasn't just scaring the demonic qi away. It was purging it, like a boss coming in and clearing out a toxic work environment. Normally, demonic qi penetrated people's bodies like a nasty parasite, corroding everything in sight. But now, it was retreating, not even bothering to fight back against Chung Myung's pure qi. Maybe this will work after all. It wasn't just any qi. Chung Myung had spent a ridiculous amount of time obsessing over keeping his qi pure, so pure it could probably win an award for the cleanest energy in the land. No shortcuts, no impure thoughts, just crystal clear, pristine qi. And now, that obsession was paying off. Chung Myung watched, fascinated, as his qi began to neutralize the demonic qi inside Elder Huang. It was like watching oil dissolve in water, except if the oil was evil and the water was, well, him. This is almost too easy, he thought, a bit smug. If he hadn't spent so much time perfecting his chi, this would have been a complete disaster. But here he was, handling it like a pro. As the demonic chi in Elder Huang's body faded, Chung Myung went to work purifying his meridians too, just for good measure. Why not leave the old guy in better shape than I found him? The problem was, this wasn't what he'd originally intended to do. Cleaning up someone's decades-old messed up body wasn't exactly on the job description. But hey, now that he was here, might as well make sure the guy was squeaky clean. Suddenly, Huang Munyak's body began to tremble slightly. His skin started to turn from a dark, sickly color to something lighter, more natural. The demonic chi was being beaten back, but it wasn't giving up without a fight. It was like watching two dogs chase each other in circles, except this time, Chung Myung's chi was the big dog. Just a little more. Chung Myung gritted his teeth, pushing harder. Elder Huang's body was shaking, blood trickling from his lips, looking like a scene from the worst hangover recovery ever. This wasn't just about defeating the demonic chi anymore. It was now a race to see if Elder Huang's body could survive the intense battle raging inside him. Chung Myung had to act fast. I need to end this quickly. Raising his chi again, Chung Myung pushed the last bit of his energy into the elder's body. Sweat poured down his face like he was trying to outrun a bad Tinder date, and he focused all his attention on forcing the demonic chi out. But then something unexpected happened. The demonic chi, now having nowhere else to go, decided to make a last stand. And where did it go? The damn head. No, no, no. Chung Myung panicked as he watched Elder Huang's head swell up like a balloon at a birthday party that had gone horribly wrong. The demonic chi had retreated to the elder's head, and now the man's skull was turning black, looking like it was about to pop. Not exactly a great look for someone trying to heal. Episode 58. Are you really a Taoist? The demonic chi gathered in Huang Munyak's head like an angry ex at a reunion, ready to explode. I can't touch it. Not unless he wanted to send the poor guy straight to the afterlife. It was a real mess. Chung Myung felt like a plumber staring at a toilet about to overflow. One wrong move and it would all go down the drain. The Grim Reaper was probably standing behind him, arms crossed, waiting for him to screw up. Leave it alone? That's even worse. The demonic chi would spread faster than cheap gossip at a temple. His lower body was clean now, but that just meant the upper half was a ticking time bomb. It was like trying to block a flood with a sponge. Utterly useless. Advance, the old man dies. Retreat, the old man dies. It was a lose-lose, like trying to please both your girlfriend and your mom at the same time. Impossible. What do I do? What can I do? Normally he'd charge in without a second thought, but what if his bullheaded recklessness turned Huang Munyak into a corpse? Not the best look for a hero, honestly. He gritted his teeth and thought, to hell with it. If he couldn't move forward or backward, he'd just do neither. Yup, classic Chung Myung logic. Ignore both options and see what happens. It's like dealing with your taxes. Just shove it under the bed and hope it sorts itself out. Chung Myung redirected his chi to one side of his body. The demonic chi surged forward like it had been promised free drinks at happy hour. It flowed along his arm, eager to find a new home. Ugh! The feeling was like having ants crawl all over his skin, but not the cute picnic ants, the ones that bite. A tingling sensation spread through his arms, and then came the pain. Real, teeth-grinding, don't-kick-me-in-the-groin kind of pain. Quack! But of course, this was Chung Myung we're talking about. If pain could knock him out, he'd have died 1,000 times by now. His internal chi fought back against the demonic invader like a bouncer tossing a drunk out of a bar. Bang! Bang! It felt like fireworks going off inside his body, except these fireworks hurt like hell. Lose consciousness? Ha! Not today, Satan! Chung Myung's pride as the Plum Blossom Sword Saint wouldn't let him collapse like a weakling. After what felt like hours of internal warfare, the demonic chi finally gave up. His chi swept through his body like a cleaning service, making sure every last corner was spotless. Chung Myung, finally in control again, exhaled. Quack! I almost died. No kidding. That was closer than trying to explain to your girlfriend why you were texting your friend at 2 a.m. His chi had grown, but not by much. Maybe like upgrading from a tiny little pebble to a slightly bigger pebble. Isn't it still just a rat tail? Ah, well, size doesn't matter. At least, that's what he kept telling himself. Chung Myung turned to check on Elder Wang. The old man was looking much better, like someone who'd just finished a juice cleanse and now thought they were invincible. His complexion was rosy, and his life expectancy seemed to have extended by a decade, which was great, if Chung Myung cared about that sort of thing. Ch! He clicked his tongue. Did a good deed again. Unbelievable. The old man stirred, his eyes fluttering open. They slowly focused on Chung Myung, and the first thing out of his mouth, "Who are you?" Chung Myung grinned. "Me? I'm a divine Taoist." Elder Wang shuddered. "I must have died and gone to hell." What the hell? Really? Anyway, now that the old man was awake, the mess was getting sorted out. Bian Jabak, the would-be assassin, had some grand plan to wipe out Wang Munyak and his family like some bad Shakespearean tragedy. But thanks to Chung Myung, that plot got foiled faster than a villain's monologue. As for Bian Jabak, he had a tearful breakdown, confessing his entire sob story. Tragic life, blah blah blah. Honestly, who didn't have a tragic backstory these days? It's like a requirement. If you commit a crime, you should be punished. Where in this world could you find a person without some tragic experiences? Chung Myung's only real interest was the demonic chi, but unfortunately, this guy didn't have the answers. He just found some random corpse in the mountains and decided, hey, this looks like a great idea. Yeah, no, demonic sect people aren't that stupid. In the end, everything wrapped up neatly. The bad guy got caught, the elder was cured, and Chung Myung, well, he was now a VIP at the Yunha Merchant Guild. Not that he cared, but hey, perks are perks. Elder Wang, back on his feet, was sitting up like he owned the world. "Father, you still need to be careful with your body," Wang Zhongyi fretted. "It's fine. I feel more energetic than ever." Energetic? Wang Zhongyi looked at him like he'd just grown a second head. But Elder Wang wasn't backing down, overflowing with energy like a guy who'd just discovered espresso shots. Turning to Chung Myung, Elder Wang asked, "Disciple Chung Myung, right?" "Yeah, didn't you see me before? It seems like you've changed." "Ah, I ate well." Chung Myung scratched his head with fingers so fat they resembled sausages, and everyone around him winced. His size doubled in 3 days. How did he eat so much that his clothes are about to burst? I can even see oil on his skin from all that fat. Why did he even bother joining a sect? Even with all the gawking, Elder Wang kept his cool. "That's a merchant for you. I should greet you first." Before anyone knew what was happening, Elder Wang flung himself flat on the ground in a bow so deep it might as well have been a yoga pose. His son tried to help him up, but the old man was dead serious. "Thanks to you, disciple, my life was saved. I am forever indebted to you." Get up, please." Chung Myung looked uncomfortable. Was it that hard for the guy to just stand up? Slowly, Wang Munyak stood, smiling in gratitude. "If it wasn't for you, I would be dead. If I ignored this, I'd be no better than a dog." Chung Myung raised an eyebrow. "Oh, he's poetic now." Elder Wang wasn't done. "Please tell me what you desire and I'll give it to you." "Ah, well, something I want." "Yes." "Haha, a Taoist doesn't seek rewards." "Come now, I insist." "Well, it's complicated. I didn't exactly get permission from the sect leader to come here." Elder Wang's eyes grew watery, like a proud dad watching his kid score a goal. But Wang Zhongyi's skeptical look said, "Yeah, right." Before Elder Wang could promise the moon, Chung Myung whipped out a book from his sleeve. "What's that?" the old man asked, blinking. "Ah, nothing. Just some notes. My memory's not as good as it used to be." "Not as good as it used to be? This kid? Seriously? I wrote down what I want." "You wrote it all down?" Chung Myung grinned, flipping through the pages. "Yup, now shall we begin?" Elder Huang felt the creeping sensation that he'd just made a huge mistake. After everything was said and done, Chung Myung's stomach growled like a beast demanding to be fed. As Elder Wang tried to compose himself after Chung Myung whipped out that extensive list of demands, it was clear that our pudgy little Taoist was far from done. Elder Wang tried to make sense of the absurdity he was facing. "Did you write everything down?" Chung Myung grinned, showing off his pearly whites. "Of course. Memory's a fickle thing, especially at my age." The old man blinked, clearly struggling to process this. Age? The kid barely looked like he had a stubble growing, yet here he was, talking like a retired war vet who'd seen it all. "I see. Well, I did say I'd give you anything, so—" Right. Now that you mention it, Chung Myung started flipping through his wish list like someone scrolling through a never-ending online cart. Hwang Munyak's eyes darted from the book to Chung Myung, and his gut told him something was off. He hadn't expected the favor debt to turn into a full-blown business transaction. Who knew this Taoist kid was about to bleed him dry faster than his worst business rivals? First, Chung Myung began, looking very official now. We'll need a regular supply of the finest alcohol. None of that cheap rice wine. I'm talking aged stuff that'll make even the gods jealous. Elder Huang looked like he was choking. Alcohol? I've got to stay hydrated, right? Chung Myung said with a wink. The elder cleared his throat. Well, we can arrange something. Good, good, Chung Myung muttered, moving on to the next page. Oh, and snacks. Can't forget those. Gotta keep this physique maintained. Physique? Huang Zhongyi nearly snorted. If this was maintained, what would unmaintained look like? But he wisely kept his mouth shut. And then there's the matter of a monthly stipend. Chung Myung was now deep into his list, and poor Elder Wang was starting to sweat bullets. A Taoist has needs, you know. Elder Wang could barely believe his ears. This wasn't a simple favor repayment anymore. This was a lifelong subscription package. Finally, after a long sigh, the elder interrupted. Disciple Chung Myung, I think we can negotiate some of these terms. Negotiate? Chung Myung's eyes sparkled. Why, of course. But remember, I did save your life. I haven't forgotten, Elder Wang said with a forced smile, clearly realizing the hole he dug himself into. Let's just be reasonable about it. Chung Myung's grin only widened. Reasonable? Oh, don't worry. I'm always reasonable. As negotiations wrapped up, though by the look on Elder Wang's face, you'd think he had just signed his soul away, Chung Myung left the meeting with a spring in his step and a satisfied smile on his face. Meanwhile, the poor Huang family would be thinking twice before making any more promises to traveling Taoists. Chung Myung thought, smugly patting his belly. Being a Taoist isn't too bad after all. And so, with a full belly and a treasure trove of promises under his belt, Chung Myung waddled back to the sect, leaving behind a very confused and somewhat broke merchant family. Episode 59. Are You Really a Taoist? 4. Father? Wang Zhongyi entered, his eyes scanning the room for his father like he was hunting for the last dumpling at the dinner table. Wang Munyak, looking sprightlier than a man who had been bedridden for a year, nodded slightly. Is your body all right now? It's hard to believe, but my body feels so light I could fly away. I feel 10 years younger. Well, damn, Zhongyi thought. It's like he got the premium spa package with the happy ending. That's strange. Zhongyi stared at his father, half expecting him to bust out some breakdancing moves. You're not supposed to recover this fast. Not sure how to explain it, but I feel like I'm in my youth again. Like I could run a marathon, or at least halfway before needing a nap. Zhongyi was confused. Sure, it was great that his dad was healthier than ever. But the fact that he went from death's doorstep to let's party like it's $15.99 was a little bizarre. And on top of that, the old man wasn't just healed, he was practically hulked out. Anyway, I'm fine. No need to hover around me like a worried hen, Huang Munyak added, waving his hand dismissively. You've been saying that a lot lately. Zhongyi chuckled, thinking, yeah, old man, you've got the energy of a teenager with a credit card in a candy store. What's the catch? Huang Munyak glanced out the window as if contemplating something deeper than what was visible. That young man's abilities are amazing. It's like I've been blessed by the heavens. But in reality, his inner monologue was more like, that boy practically mugged me, but damn, my back hasn't felt this good in years. The old man recalled the words of the mysterious Taoist who had practically stormed into his life like a typhoon, leaving health, chaos, and an emptied wallet in his wake. Divine Taoist. He hadn't misheard it. The kid wasn't just playing doctor, he was working miracles, and apparently he had a talent for parting fools from their money. Munyak finally broke the silence. So what brings you here? You didn't just come to check on me, did you? Father, as much as I want to be the perfect son, I've learned that life isn't a Hallmark card. Let's get to business. You've issued an order to cut back on dealings with the Southern Edge sect? I did. And you've promised compensation to Mount Hua too? Yes. Zhongyi's eyebrows raised so high, they nearly touched the ceiling. Father, Southern Edge is still a powerhouse. It's dangerous to cut ties with them and bet on Mount Hua, which is basically one strong wind away from collapsing. Munyak took a sip of his tea, his expression unreadable. He looked like a man about to drop some serious wisdom. Either that, or he was trying to remember if he left the stove on. After a long pause, he finally spoke. What's the duty of a merchant? Ah, the dad's speech. Here we go. Zhang thought for a moment, trying to avoid the obvious answer of to make bank and sleep in silk sheets. Instead, he went for the moral high ground. It's the duty of a merchant to run a business that is upright and just, contributing to the nation and... His father laughed so hard, he almost spit his tea. You've got a silver tongue. I'll give you that, but let's be real. The duty of a merchant is to make money. Sometimes you need to bend the rules, even morality, to do it. Zhang nodded slowly. So much for the noble speech. Now, you're wondering why we're betting on Mount Hua, right? Munyak continued, stroking his beard like he was Gandalf pondering a riddle. Father, I get that you think highly of that Taoist kid, but one good apple doesn't fix a rotten tree. We're risking our necks here. The old man just smiled, his eyes twinkling with the kind of mischief usually reserved for gamblers on a winning streak. Do you think so? Well, I beg to differ. Mount Hua will rise, and with it, so will we. Zhang sighed. His father had made up his mind, and when the old man got like this, it was easier to just roll with it. All right, fine, I'll help Mount Hua, but I still think we're stepping into a very expensive pit. Munyak chuckled again, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. Good, but there's one more thing. What do you think of that young disciple? Zhang blinked. You mean his growth? Yes. Well, he's got potential. Definitely not someone to be underestimated. He'll probably have an important position in Mount Hua soon. No, Munyak shook his head. He already has a key role. I've met a lot of warriors and merchants, but that kid is something else. He's not just potential, he's a dragon in the making. And we've got front row seats to watch him fly. Zhang narrowed his eyes. Okay, but what's with the rewards you gave him? It feels a little excessive. Oh, that? Munyak waved it off, though his face twitched like someone who had a little too much tequila the night before. It's all part of the plan. Zhang raised an eyebrow. The plan to make us go broke? Ha! No. The wealth we've given him will create a bond, a burden of gratitude that ties him to us. His father paused, clearly thinking back to the day he'd handed over that investment. Though he did take 5 times more than I expected. He's like a damn viper. Zhang stared at him. Father, calm down. Munyak, now visibly flustered, muttered, I swear, if I knew he'd bleed me dry, I would have sent him packing. That boy doesn't know the meaning of moderation. It's like asking for a loaf of bread and getting the whole bakery. Zhang sighed. This was his life now. But he had to admit, if his father thought the kid was worth the hassle, there had to be something special about him. Either that, or the old man was just bored and in need of some excitement. In the end, both men smiled at each other, a silent agreement between them. They were in deep now, and there was no going back. And that's how we get a Taoist who doesn't just heal bodies, he empties pockets too. Wang Munyak leaned back, his expression a mix of pride and exasperation. You see, Zhang, if he accepts us as allies, friends, if you will, then the investment will pay off in ways we can't even measure. A close alliance like friends? Zhang replied, trying to mask his skepticism. Exactly, he's a good friend. Munyak nodded as if he had just solved a riddle that had perplexed the ages. Right, because friends just shower each other with gifts and money without expecting anything in return, Zhang said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. What's next? A friendship bracelet? Hey, a little creativity never hurt anyone. Munyak shot back, trying to defend the absurdity of his logic. Sometimes you have to throw money at a situation to see what sticks. Or what flies away with your cash, Zhang muttered under his breath. But seriously, Munyak continued, leaning forward with a serious glint in his eye. This kid has the potential to bring Mount Hua to heights we can only dream of. If we can nurture that, we could transform Yunhe into one of the top 5 guilds across the land. Imagine the wealth. Or imagine us being crushed under a pile of debts if Mount Hua crumbles, Zhang countered, still wary. It's a gamble, father. True, but when you're a merchant, you have to know when to roll the dice, Munyak exclaimed, spreading his arms wide as if to embrace the chaos of life. Right. And when the dice are loaded against you, you end up broke and crying on the street, Zhangyi replied dryly. The old man chuckled, not taking the warning seriously. Ah, my boy, what is life without a little risk? It's just like investing in stocks. You can't sit on the sidelines and expect to be rich. Zhangyi sighed. I'm still skeptical, but I suppose if we're doing this, I'll put my all into it. Let's help Mount Hua grow then. Maybe they'll surprise us all. Good, that's the spirit. Munyak beamed, slapping his son on the back with the enthusiasm of someone who just found $100 bill in an old jacket. But just as the mood seemed to lighten, Zhangyi couldn't resist another poke. But seriously, about those rewards you gave the kid, didn't you think they were a bit much? Munyak's smile faltered for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. Oh, there's a reason for that. Please enlighten me, Zhangyi said, feigning interest while rolling his eyes. The boy is a disciple of a sect, and he's not here just for sympathy. His motives are layered, like a good dumpling, Munyak explained, his tone suddenly serious. Dumplings? Now I'm hungry, Zhangyi muttered, but his father continued. The wealth and rewards he has now will weigh on his heart. It's a burden of gratitude. If he feels indebted to us, that makes our bond stronger. Cheap investment, if you ask me. Cheap? Zhangyi scoffed. You're the one who just got rolled over like a pastry by that kid. True, Munyak admitted, his expression turning sheepish. But if he appreciates and accepts us as allies, we'll have nothing to lose. Just think of it as a long-term investment. Long-term? More like a lifetime of debt, Zhangyi replied, still skeptical but somewhat amused by his father's overzealous plans. Look, he took 5 times more than I anticipated, Munyak lamented. If I had known he would clean me out, I would have just pretended to be sick and sent him away. I nearly cried my weary heart out when he started asking. Zhangyi shook his head, chuckling despite himself. You're just lucky he didn't ask for your firstborn. Please, don't tempt fate, Munyak exclaimed, half serious. I'm too old for a diaper change. Agreed. Let's keep the family planning off the table. Zhangyi laughed. As they exchanged banter, both men realized they were in deeper than ever, united by their shared madness and a vision for the future. Well, here's to hoping this kid knows what he's doing, Zhangyi said, raising an imaginary glass. Cheers to that! Munyak responded, both men grinning as they plotted their next move, ready to embrace whatever chaos the future might hold. Episode 60, Are You Really a Taoist? Hey, I caught a pushover! Chungmyung chuckled softly, reveling in his moment. No, seriously, is this for real? Aren't these folks supposed to be merchants? They're really going to give me so much just because I saved one person? I mean, who knew kindness could pay so well? Money. Wealth. Riches. Ah, didn't all his ancestors say money was the best? He was practically rolling in dough after borrowing from his Sahyung's warehouse, but watching his wealth grow? That was just the icing on the cake. But it wasn't so much, he chuckled, rubbing his hands together. He was joking when he asked for half of their wealth. Just a quarter would be worth a banquet. Of course, they wouldn't have opened their wallets out of pure gratitude. If Elder Wang was still sick, they might have given him the whole treasure chest. But now? Well, things change faster than a politician's promises once the crisis is over. Still, handing out so much without a catch? There had to be a hidden agenda somewhere. But Chung Myung wasn't one to be easily swayed. Not gonna happen, folks. If he were just an average kid, this wealth might feel like a burden. But no, he was no mere child. He was more like a relic from the past, an ancient fossil just waiting for the right moment to flex. Anyway, everything's settled, he declared, feeling quite the hero. He saved Elder Wang, and they promised to help Mount Hua. Soon, he'd be heading there like a hero in a cheesy drama, cape and all. Just one thing left, he smiled, spotting someone making their way toward him. Hey, are you feeling well? Lee Song-baek, the second-class disciple of the Southern Edge sect, loomed over him like a concerned parent. What is it? Chung Myung squinted up at him, squished against the wooden floor. I need to return to my sect soon, Lee Song-baek replied, looking all too serious. Ah, good for you. Must be lonely here all by yourself. Congratulations. Chung Myung feigned excitement. Thank you. But Lee Song-baek didn't budge. The way he stood there, it was like he was waiting for a bus that wouldn't arrive. Anything else you want to say? Chung Myung prompted. A faint smile appeared on Lee Song-baek's face. Disciple. What? I understand you set me up to solve this problem. Huh? Chungyang blinked. Well, I mean, I did throw a little curveball your way, but it's not like I was trying to trap you. Li Songbak chuckled. So, you're not going to blame me? Blame? Nah, that's too much effort. You're a strange one, you know that? Chungyang thought. Kids these days were all about the drama. Back in his day, people threw daggers, not compliments. Well, what do you want? Chungyang asked. It doesn't bother me if I've been humiliated or put in danger. What bothers me is the time we crossed swords. I still don't understand what happened. Chungyang narrowed his eyes. So, if you allow, I'd like to spar with you again. This time, I'm not looking to pull a fast one, just a good, honest duel. Chungyang scratched his cheek, amused. Look at this kid, asking for a rematch like he's challenging a video game boss. What to do? Sparring was one thing. It could help him grow. But for Chungyang, well, fine, but don't expect me to go easy. Where? He asked, pointing to the yard. Let's go somewhere out of sight, Li Songbak suggested, a hint of nervousness creeping in. Phew, scared? You trying to sneak up on me? Chungyang feigned a throat-slit gesture. Young disciple, I'm no fool. I get it. Your skills are superior. Oh? Chungyang raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Didn't I tell you? I want to know what happened last time. Li Songbak squared his shoulders, looking determined. You will regret it. Even so, let's do this. As Chungyang moved, Li Songbak followed, trying to shake off his nerves. He felt like he was facing a mountain that could crush him. Small, he thought, eyeing Chungyang. The kid was literally a decade younger, but stood there like he owned the place. He could have been his disciple, for heaven's sake. Yet, this pressure? It was like facing an elder. No way a kid could feel this intimidating. Even though he hadn't sensed any internal chi, it felt like a mighty warrior was sizing him up. Why am I so nervous? Biting his lip, Li Songbak focused on sparking his fighting spirit. This kid has good senses. Chungyang noticed Li Songbak's trembling sword, a sign of sharp awareness. Impressive. He might not shine right now, but with training, he could rise to be the Southern Edge Sect's supreme sword. But here's the kicker. He was reborn in the same era as Chungyang. Chungyang raised his sword, contemplating a lesson in humility. Are you coming? He said, shaking his head and pointing the sword. Li Songbak shuddered but pressed forward, determination written all over his face. After a few deep breaths, he managed to speak. Can I ask you one thing before we start? Sure, shoot. Who is young disciple? I'm Chungyang of Mount Hua. Li Songbak clenched his teeth. How are you so accomplished? You can't have been learning the sword for long. If only you knew. I learned for 100 years. Chungyang wanted to scream. He hated how age was always used against him. Sure, he was stronger in the past, but he'd taken his time this time around to build a solid foundation. The world's unfair, he replied with a shrug. Are you saying if I believe in my sword and work hard, I could defeat you someday? Ah, maybe. Chungyang waved his hand dismissively. But hey, you won't be ashamed if you can't win. You'll feel honored to duel with me. Weird. Too weird. Li Songbak's eyes narrowed, but he was visibly relaxing. Be careful. I know I'm not good enough, so I'll give it my all. Sure. Li Songbak twisted his sword and Chungyang narrowed his eyes. What's this? A shift in his stance. Was that a technique from the Southern Edge Sect? He'd seen enough precision in their styles. I'll deal with you using the 12-movement snowflower sword. 12-movement snowflower sword? Chungyang tilted his head, intrigued. Did they create something new while he was out of the game? Here I come. Li Songbak shouted, charging forward. Ah! Chungyang grimaced, bracing for impact. What do I do? Should he steamroll over the juniors or take it easy and help them grow? Before he could decide, Li Songbak's sword transformed. It wasn't fast but packed a punch, heavy and full of flair, unlike anything Chungyang had seen from the Southern Edge Sect before. Chungyang's expression soured. This? He swung his wooden sword, the force of it ringing out. Kwang! Li Songbak stumbled back, blood spilling from his lips. But Chungyang wasn't done. He grabbed Li Songbak's collar, pulling him close like a parent about to dish out a serious talk. Where did you learn that technique? Kokov. To that. Li Songbak gasped. Chungyang's jaw tightened. 12-movement snowflower sword? What a joke. Those words could fool anyone but him. The form was familiar, a dull but recognizable stance. Plum Blossom, the legendary sword of Mount Hua, the essence of their technique. And here it was, resurrected in Li Songbaek's hands. Where did you learn that? Chung Myung pressed, eyes burning with curiosity. Li Songbaek gulped. Speak. Chung Myung wasn't about to let this slide. The secrets of the past had resurfaced, and he had to know how. Li Songbaek, still wheezing, looked at Chung Myung with wide eyes. I swear, I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to what? Unleash a forbidden technique on me? Chung Myung leaned closer, his voice low and intense. I thought we were just sparring. Next thing I know, I'm facing the reincarnation of a sword saint. Cough. No, I'm not. Li Songbaek stammered, but Chung Myung was already in full detective mode. You're telling me you learned this from a book? A scroll? Did you steal it from some ancient sect while sneaking around like a ninja? Li Songbaek shook his head vigorously. No, I swear. It was just something I picked up. Chung Myung raised an eyebrow, clearly not buying it. Just something you picked up? Like a stray cat? Or a sword technique that's been lost for ages? Maybe more like a stray dog? One that doesn't know how to fetch? Li Songbaek offered, desperately trying to lighten the mood. Chung Myung couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. So you're saying you're a stray dog trying to bite a lion? Good luck with that. Li Songbaek managed a weak smile. Hey, I may not be a lion, but I'm not just a puppy either. Chung Myung's expression shifted from amusement to seriousness. Look, if you're using techniques from Mount Hua, you need to be careful. This isn't a game. You can get seriously hurt. Li Songbaek nodded, his face paling slightly. I understand. I just thought if I could figure out the basics, I could. Become a master? Outshine your seniors? Chung Myung interrupted, crossing his arms. You think that just because you have a flashy move, you can take down anyone? This isn't a martial arts movie, buddy. Yeah, I get it. I need to train more, Li Songbaek admitted, glancing down at his sword, feeling a mix of embarrassment and determination. But can I at least get a few pointers from the legendary Chung Myung? Chung Myung scratched his head, torn between his instinct to teach and his desire to see Li Songbaek put in his place. Fine, I'll help you out, but only because it's hilarious watching you flail around. Great. So what's first? Li Songbaek asked, a hint of excitement creeping back into his voice. First, stop thinking you can outsmart your way through everything. Techniques are about more than just flashy moves. Chung Myung demonstrated, swinging his sword with precision and control, emphasizing the importance of balance and footwork. As Li Songbaek observed, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. Wow, you make it look so easy, Chung Myung smirked. That's the point, my friend. When you make it look easy, it means you've put in the hours to master it. Now, let's see what you've got without the secret techniques. With that, they began sparring again, this time with Li Songbaek focusing on his basics while Chung Myung guided him, throwing in a quip here and there. Remember, it's all in the hips. Or was that dancing? Either way, move like you mean it. Li Songbaek laughed, a little less tense now. I'll try to dance my way to victory. Good, just don't step on my toes, Chung Myung joked, parrying a clumsy strike. The atmosphere lightened as they sparred, the earlier tension melting away. See? You're not a stray dog after all. You've got potential, Chung Myung shouted as he dodged another one of Li Songbaek's swings. Thanks, but if I'm not a stray dog, does that make me a fierce wolf? Li Songbaek replied, grinning. A fierce wolf? More like a puppy pretending to be one. Chung Myung shot back, his laughter echoing across the yard. As they continued to spar, Chung Myung realized he wasn't just teaching Li Songbaek, he was also rediscovering his own passion for the sword, reliving memories of his younger days filled with training and friendship. All right, let's take a break, Chung Myung said after a while, panting slightly. You've got the basics down. Now, remember, practice makes perfect. Li Songbaek nodded eagerly. I will. Thank you, Chung Myung. You really are a great teacher. Chung Myung smirked. Don't go spreading that around. I have a reputation to maintain. Sure. The legendary Chung Myung, slayer of demons and now the slayer of bad sword techniques. Li Songbaek laughed. Exactly. And if you keep practicing, maybe one day you can join my ranks of legendary fighters. Just don't trip over your own feet. With that, their friendly banter continued, the camaraderie of sparring turning into a bond of respect. As the sun began to set, The two disciples knew they had both learned something valuable that day about swords, techniques, and the importance of laughter.